6:08, December the 5th, 2023. I'd like to call the City of Montgomery Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting to order. We have a quorum and we have 2 new members with us. Want to introduce yourself?
John Fox. Tom Schwabich.
And that being said, so we'll call to order. Is there any citizen or anyone that signed up to speak, Eric? Is it, no one? Okay. Then we will move on to the first item, consideration and possible action on the October 3rd, 2023 regular meeting minutes that was tabled on 11/7/2023.
I've read over them, and the missing items look to be in the minutes now. I move to approve those minutes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. I guess just the 3 of us, since we're the ones there. So, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion's unanimous. We'll move on to item number 2. Possible consideration and action on exterior architectural accent lighting at 2002 McCowan Street in the Historical Preservation District as submitted by Jim and Denise
Chulevich.
And they were, at that last meeting, they were granted 1 month for us to review.
Okay, for the record, I recuse myself.
Okay, all right.
Since the last meeting, it's become the holiday season for Christmas, and so now everyone has lights out, which we have that happen in the city of Montgomery, and it goes along with what everyone else is doing as far as decoration goes. I reviewed the lights at night and in the morning and in the daytime. Sometimes they were completely off. I do have to remark that at one point I thought they had been removed. So when they're off, those lights, you can't even tell they're on the building. And I got a close-up. I was like, did they remove them? And then they came back on. During this season right now, they look decorative for the season. But as a permanent lighting in downtown Montgomery, it does not go with the historic flow of the remainder of the rest of the buildings. And I did drive around, and I noticed that the lights that they were referring to, that all the downtown businesses have that have them, are either underneath the roof, alongside even with the roof, but there were none that were on top of the buildings going on the outer frame of the building. That's what I noticed. So that's the difference in this lighting on this building, is that it would, they had asked for permanent so that it could outline the top of their roof, which is not consistent with the remainder of the historical downtown district.
I would agree. So saying, we gave it 1 month to have that opportunity to review it and to compare it to the other conditions in the area. And there were, again, none of the similar design or the same intent, really. They did not follow the historical nature. And so at this time, I would go against it. That's my 2 cents.
I just want to bring up, there is a design guideline for the city of Montgomery. And as reading through this, there are really no guidelines as per lights.
No.
So we'd really have to revert to the commercial lighting standard. I know we're trying to unify things, but I'm not in the point where I want to handcuff business owners either.
Agreed.
I think the lighting, in my personal opinion, that type of lighting is a lot more aesthetic than just randomly hung lights. My feeling is if he keeps them as a stationary and follows the commercial guideline about no chasing lights, blinking lights, this, that, and the other, I think it looks good. If you drive down at night before he put those up, you wouldn't even know there was any business back there on that back street.
Fair. It's pretty dark.
And I would like to see, I don't know how we could do it, but if we would approve a system like that, how we can make it uniform throughout the buildings. I know we can't specify directly what type of system you use, but that style, if there's any way that we could, if it's approved by everyone, that we can incorporate that into the historical guidelines.
Yeah, you'd have to do a text amendment to the ordinance,
Right.
apply those standards.
But I think, in my personal opinion, I like it. I think it's going to be easier to enforce. I mean, those temporary lights are temporary, correct? So, but how long is temporary?
Depending on the business owner,
Well,
what
exactly. But,
their designs are,
Right,
ideas.
and they have to be enforced. It has to be enforceable, and that's a whole nother issue.
Now, right now, on top of the deli, well, not deli, the cheese store and the other bistro, they've put lights up.
Those are Christmas lights.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
those are temporary. Yes.
Yes, they are temporary, but what I wanted to bring up was when you drive through town, that building is quite a bit taller. So if we do say yes to this type of lighting, if we do, you're going to have to get every business owner to agree that's the kind of lighting that they want, and then it's a financial, and can they afford it, and then the next business owner, whoever buys that business. So we're setting a precedence, and that's, my stance on it when we were presented with it is the precedence. Like, it's just like the fences. If you say yes to one, you've got to remember downtown historic district is bigger than just that one building. And although it's Christmas and that tall building, which is 2-story, it's very prominent in downtown how bright it is. And yes, it's colorful, it's Christmas, it's in the season. We just have to be real careful by setting the precedents. And we know that just because we write it down and we say that, and we say no, and we say that's not what is good for the downtown historic district, we do know that it gets overridden and then it gets put on there, and then there's nothing, we don't have anything strong enough to say you have to take it down. That's what we have to be careful of. We say no racing or chasing lights, but I believe that it was, those lights were a different color and they were chasing within the month. It may have only been the one time, whether it be an accident or an automatic thing or whatever. But that's what I'm concerned about, is I understand the aesthetics. And it needs to look neat, and it needs to look the same throughout downtown Montgomery, aesthetically, historically, where it complements our downtown. So, I would tread very lightly by saying we approve it, and then what are you going to say to the gentleman that's got Christmas lights on the top of his building? He's going to take those Christmas lights down, then he has to, invest in the clear, solid lights. And then you're going to have to ask, the Montgomery Steakhouse, and then you have to tell Cozy Grape, and then you have to tell the Cajun place, and then you have to tell the people in the white business building. That's all that's all I'm saying about it.
One thing stands out, I think that we cannot ask anybody to do anything in the way of, like this particular item, where there's no rule there.
Yep.
There's not a rule there, we can't approve or disapprove of it. But if anything, we'd have to approve of it, because you can't make rules where there are no rules.
To some extent, there is a rule that
Yes.
before modifications are supposed to come for approval,
In the historic district,
and you agree.
so that it's cohesive with the rest of the downtown district. So that it flows in the setting of what our downtown historic district looks like.
So do we want it flowing uniformly or just randomly?
Right now, it's randomly, and nobody even asks us, and it's there. And
Well,
again,
I mean about the
Yeah.
temporary and random lights. I mean, they're 365, 24/7. Where this is, this is a little more uniform, and if a building owner doesn't want to put them up, they don't have to put them up, and we're not forcing anybody to put a light up.
so do we leave the swooping lights?
That's,
You see what I'm saying? Like, that's already up, and nobody even asked.
that's not that's not under our rule, correct? The temporary Christmas lights and patio lights?
Those are exempt if it's under 60, if it's no more than 60 days.
Okay, so, but, that's not a P and Z,
But they are there more than 60 days.
well, but that's not our, we're not
That's the
enforcing
case,
it,
that's an enforcement issue.
right?
And again, we need to know, I went to the city council meeting and I read a letter, we need to be able to have something to be able to enforce what it is that our guidelines say. And if it's aesthetically making the historic part of Montgomery look better or look uniform, then, it's what's best for downtown historic Montgomery. So this person just happened to come and ask. That's what I'm trying to say. This person happened to come and ask. And I've been sitting here this is not my first time for sitting on this commission, and the rest of the people didn't come and ask. That had the swooping lights or the accent lights, and now it's being presented to us, and they're putting it to us, and we have to make a decision, and it is his business. He does want to make it pretty. He does want to make it inviting for people to come and see. So if it's not cohesive with what's in downtown historic Montgomery now, that's our only basis. Is it within what's going on in our downtown historic district right now?
Mr. Chairman, can I offer something? Can I offer a suggestion? And let me explain where I'm coming from first. So in looking at the ordinance, because I watched the last meeting, and I wasn't at the council meeting, but I did watch that meeting as well, and your comments on that. So looking at our ordinance, on both sides, on the city side, it's hard for you guys to enforce, to apply this ordinance when you get a request for these type of lights, because we have really no criteria for approval other than the subjectivity of the planning commission. So anything in the historic preservation area of the district has to come before you guys. And it really just kind of says whatever the planning commission wants to allow, they can allow. So on the other side, so for the applicant coming in and wanting to do something for the business and wanting to put these string lights up, it really doesn't outline any kind of criteria on how to get to yes or how to get approval. All it really says is if it's an historic preservation district, you come and you ask the planning commission if that's allowed. If it's not, then you look at the commercial lighting standards, and all that really says is it comes to my office, and there really there's no criteria to give me to allow for, photometric plans required. It talks about glare, it talks about some other things, but really those can be subjective items as well. So I understand the frustration on your end, because you don't have a very good ordinance to look at to try to help people get to yes on the business. And When the business owners or the applicants are looking, they're not seeing what they have to do it, so they're getting frustrated. That's probably why you see people just putting lights up. And then again, it becomes an enforcement issue, we're chasing that down. A couple things. So on this case, what I would do, because it's so vague and subjective, if you have had cases over the past couple of years like this that have come before this body, what I would think about is how did you apply those? What kind of standards did the planning commission apply to make a decision on whatever that activity they were requesting? And if it's lights, I would apply that same standard. And I think you're going to have to do that until we get this ordinance fixed. That's coming, but that's going to take some time. So again, for this case, I would just look at your past practice on what you use for criteria, because the ordinance doesn't give you any, and then try to make a rational decision based on that. Otherwise, you're going to go,
Yes.
one person may like it, one person may not like it, and then really who's
right?
to say it's good or bad?
Well, what we've used in the past is cohesiveness in downtown. Prime
That's the only
example,
cohesiveness.
yes,
Correct.
prime example, fence. Last commission meeting, they wanted a wire fence, a metal post, and we said no. It would be more cohesive if it was wooden and 4 foot and white. And we based that on the cohesiveness of downtown, what was going on in downtown. And there was discussion because there is mixed fences in downtown, but as the new stuff comes in, they're starting to match the rock, match the fences and the aesthetics of downtown. This is a hard one because this company came to us, of course it was already up, as most things are, but at least they came and asked. None of the other lights that are hanging, no one's even came in. So it is subjective. So it's a preference right now. It's a preference of what is everyone else doing in downtown Montgomery. Right now, it's a hard decision to make because its Christmas lights are up and it all looks pretty.
Yeah.
So-
And lacking these standards and lacking any prior practice you guys can think of, I would think of things about glare. Is it a nuisance? Is it a safety issue for traffic driving by? Those are all things I would think about when you're looking at stuff like this.
But how do we enforce chasing lights or enforce?
Those like digital lights or
Yeah,
flashes?
well, these lights will do it, and they change different colors, but, you know, people's preference at Christmas, you can go through downtown Montgomery and in the subdivisions, and everyone has a different preference of what they think Christmas lighting should be. But this company wants to leave them there permanently.
Yeah.
The other company building, it's only during Christmas time that they put that lights up. And if they do any other lights, it's underneath the roof.
So again, that's an enforcement issue. And if you're, assuming if your approval were to say lights, but no chasing, twinkling, running, etc., you know, when those things happen, when they are chasing, you know, it's up to the city to enforce, you know, what your approval was by issuing some sort of municipal citation.
Oh, so it is a municipal citation. See, I just thought they got just
A request.
Well,
a request not to do it.
It's like, they can get like a ticket, essentially.
Okay.
It's enforced.
I mean, it's in the lighting ordinance of what can and
We've
cannot
done that
be
with,
done.
you know, cities that, digital signs in cities, you know, over the years have been problematic.
Yeah.
And you can do all kinds of, you know, the whole Las Vegas
Yep.
flashing digital signs, which most cities do not like to have in their, you know, districts. But on the other hand, the digital information signs, a lot of institutions, your schools, your churches, you know, really, you know,
Yep.
prefer those because they're easy to change, and the old ones, you had to go in there and move numbers and letters and things. And they can be static, so they can all be programmed. So I've had cities that will approve digital signs that have to be static and can't change more than, you know, one time a day or whatever. But it's then up to the city to enforce those requirements.
So if we say yes, then this is setting the precedence for the building down the road, not down the road, but to...
Next door.
Next door. He leaves his Christmas lights up and he says, okay, we can do these lights now because this other building is the guideline we say white or clear? You see what I'm saying? Like, can we set those precedents? You know, like if we say no chasing lights or no, flashing, lights or whatever, and they have to stay clear, because that's what we ask him to do for a month. So is that what, it wouldn't be an ordinance, it would just be what we agreed to for this building. So the next person that wanted to do it, they would have to come before the board and ask, or they could just leave them on, and then we'd have to call the city and say, hey, can you go over and ask them to turn their lights off, or either come before the planning and zoning. Is that how that would be handled?
That's essentially correct, yes.
Okay. It's not that it's ugly.
No,
That's the bad thing. It's not that it's ugly, it's just, it's not every other building has it on it.
But we can't enforce something that's not in,
Correct.
Yeah.
But it doesn't flow with what is
Well-
already going on, is what I'm trying to say is,
but it
is the
can't.
swooping lights better? I'm not saying the swooping lights are better, I'm just saying, they already put them up, and that's what's
Right.
in downtown.
But with these,
When you say swooping lights, do you mean basically Christmas lights, or? is that-
No, they have like the little lights,
almost
next,
industrial, almost.
yeah, like you walk in the alleyways between the cheese places.
Antino lights, like
Yeah,
backyard.
Yeah, yeah, and at the event center, not Hodgepodge, but across the street from it, they have the lights in the trees, and then they have lights that are strung like over their decking, and we still have to contend with the White House that we've had issues with the artificial turf and all that, but what are they gonna put on? What are they gonna put in back there? That's what I'm saying is, it's only going to grow bigger, so if we're going to do it, we need to be able to set some perimeters moving forward for the next group of people that may or may not come ask us. They may just put them
well,
up.
there needs to be two standards. There needs to be fixed lighting and hanging lighting.
Temporary, okay.
We need to have two standards in here for that. Because like John was saying, we can't enforce or make a rule with something that's not here. But if we agree that yes, we'll have a standard for hard lighting and a standard for
Temporary lighting.
temporary lighting.
And we also need to really think about the temporary lighting. This is a lot of discussion about lighting, but I think people drive through downtown and they get used to seeing it. I live in downtown. I mean, I drive by it all the time. It's not aesthetically unpleasing. It's kind of gives it an ambiance, right?
And I don't-
But it's different than what this gentleman wants to do. It's not what the company's doing is bad, it's just not what everyone else is doing. And you've got to remember, there's other companies that are coming downtown that are going to try to build their business. That property is for sale right there by the washateria and those antique shops. You don't know what the next owner's going to do. We have the Cajun food gentleman who's going to try to expand. He's going to want to put lights out there as well. He's, asking to put an extension roof out there. And that's what we have to think about is he going to put the stationary lights along the edge of the building like the gentleman that's in the coffee shop? Or is he going to do the swooping temporary lights? How long have those lights been up at the event center across from Hodgepodge? Wrapped around that tree, swooping over their deck. And then next to it is Lizzie's Boutique, and she has some lights, but it's all underneath the roof. It's not that I'm up here just going, oh, I don't want this guy to have lights. That's not it. Once we say what we're going to say or vote on, you have other companies that are coming in. And Montgomery is only growing. And we've got to be able to write an
But the
ordinance.
historical downtown cannot grow. The historical downtown business area has got a set amount of buildings.
Yes,
So-
but there's some empty spots
Well,
that
yeah.
are still available, yeah.
Right. But I mean, those are leased tenants,
Okay.
okay? So, I mean, it's not like that we're going in the downtown historical district in 10 years, we're going to have 25 new buildings, because it's not going to happen. But my feeling is if we set a standard for the hard fixed lighting, then we can control that right now.
Yes.
Is that a true statement?
If you set a standard.
For the hard fixed
By-
lighting.
By making a decision tonight.
Yes,
Setting that
yes.
standard. I would look at this, I break this apart into two different issues. You got your case tonight that you guys have to decide on.
Right.
Yes.
And as I'm sitting here thinking, listening, well, we've got a planning aspect coming where we're going to redo and recodify the ordinance. But if you guys feel this is that important of an issue, we could handle this separately and start working on a comprehensive lighting ordinance that we can bring back and get that
Well,
through
but, I think,
in the next few months if you feel that that's an issue.
because I think if whatever's the decision tonight, if it's yes or no, we have to adjust the ordinance.
I mean, if this is putting you guys in a bind.
Well, it is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
Then let's address that immediately,
Okay.
separate from the whole recodification.
Okay.
But for tonight, what I would do is just, again, just apply some simple standards to this and make a decision, because it's not, you're going to be here all night.
Yes.
If you
Yeah,
don't.
because,
And you really have
even
to-
though we're trying to keep downtown as quaint as possible, we've got to move into the
Yes.
21st century also.
Yes.
Agreed, we can't keep it dark. We can't keep it dark, we got to keep the
Exactly.
path moving forward.
Exactly.
So, okay, talking about criteria we care about, I want to get y'all's thoughts on the colors, because previously you had mentioned, kind of holidays, maybe changing the colors every now and then. What are y'all's thoughts on that? Do we want to because once we set that precedence, then does it open up the path moving forward to other companies coming in to have multicolored permanent lights?
Let's just, if we can, decide on just a permanent one color
That would be my,
for right now, for this particular decision.
how can we bind that for
Just make it as a condition of approval.
conditional
If you
approval
word that properly.
for a duration? Or for until codified, or,
I would not put a duration on it.
yeah, because that's the hard part.
I mean, you need to give this guy a decision.
Yeah,
And then let's work on this lighting ordinance and fix this issue.
Is it cohesive at this
what you're
point?
saying is no.
I wouldn't agree, but I feel like we can't I don't feel like it's cohesive at this time, but I do think it's, like you said, moving into the 21st century, we got to keep it lit. I want to approve it, but let's just figure out how we want to work this.
And I feel Jim, I think he understands, and I think he's willing to work with us.
Agreed.
But I do agree, if we do that, if we, whatever the decision is tonight, that we do need to move along and get a standard, so we're not up here mauling through this again.
I would ask that whatever the standard is, however it becomes, what it becomes, is that you should have identified permanent lighting from holiday lighting.
Right.
Because you can't have every who's up here wanting a permit about lights. And we don't-
There's a holiday every month.
Yeah,
Every permanent lighting is what this needs to
Yes.
be about.
Permanent lighting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Hard permanent lighting. All
Hard permanent lighting.
right. I agree.
And I'm thinking what we can do is, if the motion is for this tonight, is to, in that motion, as per, what he has, the lighting as per the picture, the soft white light
Yeah.
is what would be,
I wouldn't say per the picture, just because it's multicolored in this one,
Yeah.
but yes, as per the last month, it's been white. Permanent lighting.
Do you guys have motions on the floor?
Yeah, we're trying to find the wording for it. We want to say it right. Let's see. The owner of property 202 McCowan Street recently installed architectural lighting on the exterior of the building along the top of the roof line of the front of the building. We granted tentative approval of the lights. We didn't say color, and we set it for 30 days. So,
Can I say something? I recuse myself from the vote, but I would like to interject. I think he used a key word there, which I see, and I think other people I've talked to. It's architectural accent, okay, permanent architectural accent lighting, soft white.
Okay.
thank you. We were wondering what that word was, what color. Was it white? Was it bright? Yeah.
Yeah, it's all.
I don't know if you already have the no chasing in there, no
Yeah.
flashing.
Yeah, no chasing, no flashing, no strobing, no running of the lights, steady, stays on.
Yeah, they'll need to follow, what is that
And
section?
is it 20, can you leave it on 24/7? Is that what the ordinance for commercial lighting? Was it 24/7?
I don't think he plans to either way, but.
I know.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, once we say
Yeah, we
yes,
got to,
Joey will be here.
Yeah, they'll just
Next
have to follow section 1856, the commercial, Article 3 of the commercial lighting ordinance.
Okay.
All right, Miriam, you want to give this a stab?
No, I am not repeating that. You're going to say it. I'm going to.
all right, I'm going to give this a shot. Feel free to.
Make it easy so I can repeat it.
That's what I was just going to say.
So I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the lights of the exterior architectural accent lighting at 202 McCowan Street in the Historical Preservation District, as submitted by Jim and Denise. Can you help me out there? Yeah.
Two levels.
With a few conditions. One, that the lighting remains monochromatic as soft white lighting. There is no chasing, strobing, or flashing of any sorts. And that they follow section 1856 of the commercial lighting ordinance. Did I miss anything?
You have to put that back in my corner.
Yep.
I second that motion.
Okay, so I don't have to redo on that. Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Who's the second, Mary?
Mary, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Is that all we need, Gary?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then,
You guys voted, right? It was,
We're fixing that.
all in favor for the approval of the permanent architectural lighting at 202 McCowan?
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jump the gun there.
All opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Motion is passed.
That's to bed for 1 month.
And then we can somehow move on to the, getting it into a,
yes, on that, just keep in mind that what I'll do, right?
Oh, yeah.
we do these
That's gonna be a
ordinances,
while.
we'll work in community together, I'm gonna come back to you guys and ask you to help me with that.
right, yeah, definitely,
Be ready
yeah.
for some contact.
Yeah.
We have some other stuff too that we want to present.
That's,
to.
you know, we'll
Yep, we'll
discuss
do
that
that
at the
together.
end,
Okay.
so we can get through.
I got a question, Gary. Is it appropriate to have the Historic Society participate in any of this?
Yeah, I like to get a couple different, we'll have somebody from the business.
I mean, they have a big vested interest in preservation of historical areas, so I would think that their knowledge of the history that they do have, all of those members of the Historical Society have extensive knowledge of the historical aspects of the downtown area.
Okay.
And what they can bring to bear would be really beneficial.
Okay. I'll work through the bill, if that's okay.
I'd be happy to work on that committee.
Okay.
We've asked before.
Okay. Item number 3, consideration and possible action on the preliminary plat for Montgomery Bend, Section 3.
I'll be printed out all the way, so there's a hard copy of 3 and 4.
Okay.
have it too. I have it.
Just small.
All right, good evening. What y'all have in front of you is the preliminary plat for Montgomery Bend, Section 3. The next item on your agenda is Section 4. So Montgomery Bend, just to remind you, is on the northeast side of town, off of 1097 as you're going towards the lake. Once you get just past Terra Vista, Terra Vista development going on out there.
Yep.
So Section 1 and 2 are already underway. This is, again, Section 3. With this preliminary plat, they are proposing an additional 85 lots. Just a reminder, their full development is 309 lots. Included in your packet is a timeline of the development to date, all the way from when their escrow agreement was first authorized back in April of last year to where we are today, including when the development agreement was executed and the plat and plan approval that has happened since. What is before you is their preliminary plat. What this allows is it gives us an outline of where they're proposing to put their lots to make sure it's in accordance with their development agreement, which allows 45 by 120 foot lots with 5-yard setback with no appurtenances to be placed in the setback lines. We have reviewed the preliminary plat and find it to be in accordance with all of the ordinances and the development agreement. So we would recommend approval of the preliminary plat at this time. What that allows them to do is to then submit construction plans to us for review, which we review against the preliminary plat to make sure it's all in line. This plat does not necessarily do the actual subdividing into lots. It just lays out and that applies to the whole development sections 1 through 4.
Who described in section 78 of the development criteria, section 60. So the city council has evidently approved this variance before we've seen it. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. So in September of 2022, the development agreement was placed before the city council, as well as all of the terms included in it, with the lot size variance, and it was approved by the city council on September 13th of last year.
If you follow
That's prior to that.
the rule 78, item 78 of the development criteria, it says in there specifically that all those pre-development things will be done between you guys as the engineer and this group that's planning and zoning. So somehow we're getting left out of that process, and yet you're asking us to sign off on this as a variance. So
Can I hop in on there? So, I mean, I can vouch, last summer we looked at this. We were part of the variance request process, and we have been a part of pretty much every variance request process that has been passed. Now, we don't always agree with them, but they do. We're just a bump, or not a bump along the way, but we are a part of it. And now, the city, we make an approval or a recommendation to city council what to do, but they have the right and sway to go one way or the other.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Have we seen this as a planning and zoning commission
Yes, sir.
Yes.
prior to those
Yeah,
decisions
we've
being made?
seen
Okay.
1 and then 2 and 3. And then it is passed on, and then they,
Okay. That's what I want.
now what they do
Thank you.
after whatever that happens after it leaves us, and it's,
Okay.
Kind of circling all the green space for this, it's all inside section 1, right?
Not necessarily. So this section has a reserve A and B. Reserve A is on the far east side of the
Okay.
development against the edge of the development. And then reserve B will actually connect back to section 1. Those are both green space and drainage reserves.
Okay.
Green space. Those are both included. The intent of section of reserve B was to connect to, looking at the kind of the dash outline where it says section 1, it connects to reserve C, which then leads to the rec center. The development.
There we go. Thank you.
In the process of approving these plats, especially in a neighborhood with that kind of density, is any, maybe Gary, you can answer this question for me, is there any consideration on the part of, say, the chief of police or our engineers as far as sewer and water availability? Do we get that kind of information up front? Have you discussed it with the chief? Is he going to have 200 new people to police this neighborhood? Those kinds of questions, are they getting answered?
We had discussions about that in our staff meetings, are you talking about service?
Yes.
Yeah, we will have service discussions about that. Whether the PD does a formal review of these plans, I don't think so. Emergency services at some level will look at these plans if we ask them to. But I would defer to the engineers on whether that's the case or not.
As far as water and sewer availability, before the development even got started, we did a feasibility study on the entire development, all 309 lots, to make sure that the city had water and sewer capacity, determine where it was going to be coming from. And we did make sure to look at all of that in detail before anything got started.
And we're taking into consideration all the other new developments coming in also.
Yeah, when we do this feasibility studies, we do a holistic view of the city, not just that specific development, but everything else we've got going on. Does the city have capacity to serve them?
How is our capacities? Are we, with everything coming in, are we getting about built out, or we have?
As of today, your capacities are okay with the growth that's coming. One thing that the city is looking at is a wastewater treatment plant expansion and a future water plant. Something that's been on the city's radar for a few years now, just waiting on when is the right time. We'll say the right time is coming. For this development specifically, part of their development agreement was to do some improvements to lift station 10 to increase the capacity of the lift station. That's all being funded by the developer.
Okay, all right.
At this time, the entire city is running on one sewer plant, correct?
Correct.
So what, that's worrisome to me. I wonder what happens if that sewer plant goes down. Do we have a problem with the sewer plant as we've had occasional problems with water wells?
Not at this time. The sewer plant doesn't have any reason for us to be concerned as of today. And whatever we're looking at the expansion for additional capacity, one option that we're looking at is to rebuild the Town Creek wastewater treatment plant off of 149 to alleviate that and give the city 2 sewer plants as another option.
So where is that in planning?
The request for qualifications for design is going to be going out relatively soon.
Okay. And then also, we've talked a long time in Montgomery about the need for a overhead water storage of some sort. We're all paying as homeowners, paying dearly on our fire insurance because we don't have that kind of facility. When do you see that? Where's that in the future?
So the elevated storage tank is also in about the same stage as the wastewater treatment plant. There's a site that has been lined out for it, and the city is in the process of securing funding for design. So that will be good. That request for qualifications will also be going out shortly.
Okay. Thank you.
This one's not directly related to this plat, but just any sort of update on the modifications to that road at this, just because, just with trucks coming in and out already, coming around that turn, it's pretty questionable whether somebody's coming out or not. So I was just curious of that before homes start really going up and people move in.
Yeah, absolutely. So the development had to submit a traffic impact analysis to TxDOT for the full development. Part of the requirements that TxDOT had was by the time they start developing section 2, they have to have a turn lane in before they can start building homes.
On the south side or in the middle?
A left turn lane.
Okay.
And the developer is also putting in a right turn lane.
Okay.
The left turn lane is the only thing required.
Okay.
By the time they get to section 4 and start building homes in section 4, they have to have a signal. That's required. So they are working on the left and right turn lane, or finishing up the design. I haven't seen those plans come through yet, but that's between the developer and TxDOT.
I noticed this past weekend, the main entrance, correct me if I'm wrong, the main entrance is coming out like this, but the bridge railing is right here. So are they going to it looks like it's coming out into the bridge, like they're gonna have to build up the culvert and the drainage or whatever. Is that correct? It looks like there's a, driving in and out, the railing from the curb, there's a curve, and they put a railing on the curve so you don't go into the ditch. I noticed that there was a rock road, and it looked like it divided up, but it was almost headed into the actual end of that bridge railing. It looks, take a drive by and look at it. I drove by and I was like going, I don't think that's where they're supposed to be putting it, but it looks like say this is the bridge and here's the railing, the rock road is like right here. And I was like, they're gonna have to build up the culvert for the drainage and.
Yeah, so there's kind of two pieces. So the road that will permanently connect, which is the Boulevard Street,
Yes.
stubbed out. When they're doing their turn lane, they're building all on that side of the development to help kind of straighten out that curve and line of sight.
Oh, okay, all right.
That rock road that's further east on 297, not too far, that's a temporary access
Okay.
point, so it wouldn't be their rural traffic.
Okay, because I looked at it and I was like, I need a new culvert,
Yeah,
add
so once
dirt.
they're going to be expanding
Okay.
that direction.
All right.
And that was part of it, is to help with that line of sight, because we are going around that line curve.
Okay. Do they plan on leaving those trees that they've left so far on the edge of the property? There's still trees standing. Shock. Usually the development wipes them all out, but right on the edge. Do you know? I know that there's a green space right up front, but I was just wondering, to maybe block the noise, because I know the subdivision before that, they put up, privacy fences, but they haven't cut those trees down. I was real curious if they're going to leave them or.
I have to double check their landscape plans along 1097. I know that they do have reserves lined up, so there's not going to be homes right up against
Okay, good.
1097. So I don't know for sure without checking our landscape plans. There's a chance of that staying.
Yeah, because I was very shocked, because usually they just clear it out right to the road. I was like, man, I hope they leave them. It'll help the neighborhood too.
And I think at this point, they've done all of their clearing that they needed to. That was one of the first steps that they did, was all their clearing and drumming to get everything out of the way. So I believe that's all done at this point.
Do y'all go back out after you do your feasibility plan and look to see, like, since it's rained or the weather changes or whatever, if the dynamic of the landscape, do you go out there to look to see if water flows naturally or anything like that? Do you go and look after you say yes? Does anybody go back out?
While they're in construction, we're inspecting.
Okay.
Storm sewer, if it's going to be public storm sewer, we're inspecting all of that, making sure it's being built according to the plans. We're inspecting the public water, the public sewer. So we are keeping an eye on everything that's going to become public. We've got inspectors out there keeping an eye on it.
Kind of a sidebar to the clearing, it really concerns, I have worked with Pulley Homes before, several years. They're good builders, they'll do whatever they're instructed to do. But I was wondering if we should not come up with a replanting, some criteria to reforestate as they go, even on the small lots. Single tree will help somewhere in the future.
Yeah, so the city's current tree ordinance requires that a single-family lot have a minimum of 2 trees, with one being required to be in
Good.
front, the other to be on the side or the back, or also in front of the developer. So they do have to follow that, so they'll have 2 trees per lot. They'll also have landscaping in the rec center and the other reserves that aren't specifically called out as necessarily open
Good.
space, but they do have to follow the tree ordinance.
Good, thank you.
Just out of curiosity, what's the caliper on those? Like 1 inch, 2 inch? Do you know? This is more just curiosity.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious. I can look it up.
I'm just wondering who's in charge of them after, when they start dying. Is it the HOA? Okay. I was like going, sometimes they plant them trees and they die. I'm just wondering.
So all that's up for your approval tonight is the preliminary plat, what this allows them to do. This is kind of the first step when they get started on this section, that everything is in alignment with their development agreement and ordinances, which like I said, we have to everything is in line with what they have agreed to, and then this would then allow them to submit their construction plans to us for review.
Since, I'm new on the board, but since this was brought before the commission before, did the commission receive the planning agreement or the agreement between the city and Pulte Homes? Did this commission have
The development agreement itself.
Yeah.
So the development agreement, if I'm recalling correctly, was between city council and the developer only. However, the developer did come and give a presentation to planning and zoning commission about what they plan to do to discuss the 45-foot lots and make sure that the first time that y'all were seeing it was not the first preliminary plat.
To answer your tree question before you get too far, 2 inches are required, it has to be in a large tree species, which is in the
Yeah.
Is that part of this, because that's in the city, is that being the ETJ of Conway?
No, so that portion was in Montgomery ETJ, and that was annexed into the city limits. And Montgomery, or Conway ETJ is just outside of that.
So 2 things that I just had. Gary, just clerical, are we recommending, do we approve this, or is this a recommendation to city council to approve, just from the motion?
This is an approval.
This is approval?
Preliminary plat
Okay.
on the city council.
Perfect. And then just for formality, we'll be seeing this again when we get the final plat, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Then if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Montgomery Bend, Section 3.
All right, I have a motion for the approval of the preliminary plat of Montgomery Bend, Section 3.
I second the motion.
I have a second. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no.
You switching it up on?
We have one no.
Ready to go.
That's it.
Okay, and we have one no. The plat is approved with one exception, one no. Item number 4, consideration and possible action on the preliminary plat for Montgomery Bend, Section 4.
This is going to be nearly identical to the one that you just reviewed and approved. This section is for the final 67 lots of this development. So this section is along the northernmost side of the property. It's the north and east sides of the property to finish off.
I had a question on, I guess that's the north-south or High Mesa Lane, where it kind of starts going north. Is there a planned expansion?
Not planned at this time, but I think the developer was wanting to leave their options
Potential.
open.
Yeah.
They were originally trying to purchase that truck, and so I think it's leaking that out now that state laws changed the rules, so they found a higher potential to actually be removing cars.
Yeah, that is.
Okay.
The green space reserves for this section are again along the east side, just continuing that drainage open space reserve from the previous section that you looked at. And then the last little clip along 97 of their open space reserve.
Refresh my mind, I believe with this one, we did discuss the location of the HVAC equipment. I know we talked about it on a couple, I believe this was one of them. Was this one, was that something that was approved or confirmed by city council? Just refresh my mind.
Yes, their development agreement states that they can have the 5-foot setback, but no air conditioners, generators, any kind of equipment or furnaces are allowed to go in that 5-yard setback.
Okay.
5-foot setback, excuse me.
Okay.
Are these utilities, are they front loading or rear loading? Are the utilities, the dry utilities, are they in the front or the back? Do you know? Or have you seen the utility layout?
We do not typically review dry utilities. We review water, sewer, and drainage, and all of that is in front.
So depending on the location of the driving utilities, if you've got a 5-foot side yard easement, you can't have an HVAC unit, you can't have a generator. If the electrical service is going to be on the side of the house, typically, you're going to be a long way from a generator and a long way from a AC unit, where your condensing unit's going to draw more amperage because of distance. I agree, you need a whole 5 foot for drainage. Can you picture where the utilities, if you had 5-foot side yard easement, where you're going to put that HVAC unit and a generator if you wanted one?
We had discussed putting it behind the house, I believe is what we were discussing, because we asked these questions as well,
Yeah.
back when they decided on the 5-foot easement. And then we discussed, just said, well, where? And so they said the back.
Right, Multi felt confident they had home layouts where they could adjust the air conditioner in the back. The homeowner wants a generator, that would have to go in the back. Multi was, again, since according to the agreement, they were amenable enough to the requirement.
So the family area typically is the backyard, and it would be a pretty nasty backyard with a generator and a HVAC unit sitting in your backyard, especially on a small lot like this. I don't think it's well thought out at all.
Are the lots pretty much, like they don't go, but if it's 120 feet back, they're pretty square, right? It doesn't kind of indent or anything like that unless it's a corner lot. Like you're not losing anything by the way, like they're not cutting it like a pie, right? Okay.
Right, so the only time you would see any kind of variation like that would be around a curve.
Yeah.
They have adjusted for, so looking at section 4, in their kind of that northwest corner, they're going around the curve of Ruby Bend Lane. They adjusted the front width to be 53 feet so that the back width is still maintained to keep that minimum lot size.
Yeah.
So is there an easement between the back-to-back on the lots?
There's a setback line, not necessarily an easement itself, but there is a setback,
How far from the common line?
5 feet, I believe, from the back.
Can you read that? Or that backyard? No, you don't even know, it's not even showing.
I can't read that yet.
Go ahead.
Are the,
Which
I can't remember, refresh my memory.
120,
The sidewalks, yes or no?
121,
Yes, they're required to have sidewalks.
And is it a curved curb?
55.
Or is it,
53, and
you know what I mean? Like if you're driving down the road and you know how water flows down the street, it'll
120.
flow into the hole of the curb, into the
They're all-
ditch, into the sewer line or the drainage line? Or is it a smooth,
But they're basically all
a smooth, almost flat to the road?
So what they did in sections 1 and 2 is a rollover curve, and they did also have the street inlets go
Okay.
to the storm sewer system.
So what are they doing with 3 and 4?
I imagine it'll be the same, but
Okay.
we have not seen the plans for
Yeah,
three.
typically.
Okay, all right.
What is,
Be different.
I remember something about sidewalks, I'm like, I've seen like a few subdivisions.
what is the width of the roadway easement itself?
These have a 60-foot right-of-way with a 28-foot pavement width.
So there's no on-street parking after dark? for fire purposes?
That's not necessarily a requirement, that's not an ordinance that the city currently has. Each single family home is required to provide ample parking in the driveway for 2 cars. And beyond that, the city does not have a restriction against on-street parking in a single family.
I think it goes back to the question about fire and police review of these plats. I know, in my experience, 28-foot pavement section, if you have people parking on both sides of the street, you cannot get a fire truck through.
Right. So we have discussed with the fire marshal, not on this specific development, but on other developments, they were requesting narrower streets. The fire marshal did not have any objections. Now, I understand that that's not this specific development, but the fire marshal has not brought up any concern over this. Is according to the city's current ordinance. The fire marshal has not voiced any concerns.
Well, my experience, I've been on 2 different HOAs, and the covenants are critical to this. And if the city hasn't had an input through the fire department and the police on the covenants as far as on-street parking, you're letting the homeowners down. I saw a woman almost die because the fire truck and ambulance couldn't get to the house because of on-street parking, blocking their way. And I think it's critical for the city, from the standpoint of looking after the safety of the citizens, that they should really consider ensuring that they look at the covenants as the developer proposes them and ensure that the covenants prohibit on-street parking after dark.
I'll go with the developer and see if they've had that conversation with the fire marshal as well, and I'll circle back up with staff on that.
Does the development agreement say anything as to, are these going to be underground utilities, overhead utilities, or what are they going to be?
I believe the intention is underground electric.
Under the
I'm sorry, I can't read my plat here, but would those be front-loading utilities or are those rear?
I do not know. We do not typically review the dry utility ordinance through the city engineer. Or the dry utility layout, excuse me.
I think I've answered my own question because I don't think you could get a transformer on a narrow lot and still have room for 2 cars parking. Correct.
not in a 45-foot width.
Yeah. It's tight.
We agree.
What, I know some other cities are battling this issue with width of the streets and for emergency purposes. Has that been brought up with the city of Montgomery at all? Because I mean, I know these homes are built for, 2 cars, but there's no family that has just 2 cars. I mean, shoot, there's homes in the development that I live in that's got 4, 5, and 6. And you can't, I don't know how you can control somebody from parking on a public street at night and be able to after dark. I don't know how you enforce that. But has there been any talk about the street width being widened? Because I know Conroe is trying to do that.
We haven't necessarily talked in the city of Montgomery about raising the minimum street width. The fire marshal has come up in discussion when a developer has requested a smaller street width. That's what the city of Conroe is working through as well. They had previously allowed a narrower street width and are now looking at re-expanding that minimum street width.
Because I agree, if you get 2 cars parked, especially if you have one that doesn't really know how to park real well.
Yeah. And with the rolling curb, they tend to be parking away from it rather than right up on it.
We just helped move a young man into a house on Little Oak Lane here in Buffalo Springs, and you cannot get down that street with even the trash truck when there's cars on both curves.
Right, I understand, man. Like I said, I firsthand saw a woman almost die because a fire truck and an ambulance couldn't get to her. They actually literally stopped and the paramedics ran down the street to get to her. And with that vision, think about that with respect to the citizens of Montgomery.
There's no doubt, that the economy, the housing market being what it is, they've made a decision to try to get the price of these houses down where they can sell them. And, the housing market fluctuates year to year, changes all the time. And when it goes up, it comes down. And when it comes down, that's going to be a slum. I don't like it at all. It's going to be a slum. You get people living there and they've got 2 or 3 kids that start driving cars. You don't have 2 cars, you have 5 cars. And you don't have to go far to see that in operation. Go down to Sunrise Ranch where they sold those houses, where that anybody that lived there could qualify on the loan. So you got 2 and 3 families living in the house this size. You can't even get up and down the street at all, period. Just a good example, close.
I make a motion we approve the plat 4 as requested.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second for the preliminary plat approval for Montgomery Bend 4. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed?
Yes.
John,
Yes.
who made the motion?
I did.
Okay. That is it for the items. Is there any commission inquiry you'd like to bring up at this point?
I'm sorry, you did? I have one. Gary, just the last time we met, we approved, I believe, was that the public hearing? To talk about the rezoning of about the church at the Ransoms?
Yes, sir.
Is there any progress on that, or is that kind of fallen through?
That's why I was here to talk to you guys about that.
So essentially, as we dug into this, there's a federal law that overrides your city zoning, the RLUIPA, the religious something land use and institutional persons act, that essentially says that a city, cannot, prohibit a church or religious institution, a house of worship of any type, from operating within within any of the commercial zones for sure, and even sometimes within residential zones. So even though the city's zoning ordinances would require a change to allow the church to operate where it is in the commercially zoned area, the federal law is going to end up overriding that, and so there's really no reason for us to have a hearing on that issue.
So that would allow the Methodists to go ahead on that track they're talking about? But
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know we have a lot of questions on the historical. Is there any, I know we have paint questions, now we have light questions, we have a lot of, to make it easier on us sitting up here, is there any way that, let's say January's meeting, there's nothing on the docket, is there any way that we can meet and discuss just to go over the rules one by one so everybody's on the same page?
You're talking about just the historic preservation
Yes,
district?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to do
I mean, if there's one item on the docket, we take care of that, then we go into, I guess, commission inquiry or however we have to do it. So everybody, we can go through those guidelines one by one and discuss. It shouldn't take that long, but I know we have paint color issues, now we have the lighting issues, and there's a lot of stuff in here that is spelled out, but there's a lot that needs our help. And going back to your question, Mike, about the historical people coming in. I've asked that for years. I've asked that for years, when I've been sitting on this, on the commission here. You know, we're on our own little island,
Well,
basically.
we wanted to have a workshop.
Yes, yeah. And if someone from the Historical Society would like, or a couple people would like to come in and express their ideas, so, you know, I'm just going off of what my feelings are. I don't know what their feelings are, which would help a lot.
We can invite them.
Okay.
That was
So you guys
good.
want to do that? So if we don't have anything, we'll just have a workshop. If we have items, we can have a meeting and then adjourn. the
Yes,
workshop.
yeah.
That sounds perfect.
Sounds good.
I think that would help out to get all of us on the same page here. 'Cause I know I've had those, a couple questions for years.
That'll be good, because then I can talk about some of the stuff that's coming up with the recalculation.
Yes, yes,
Good.
yeah.
I had one other. Now that we have a full group, can we officially appoint Bill as our chairman?
You can,
Do we
you
have
gotta
to?
get an agenda. So
I'll vote for that.
Do we have a spot? Do we just nominate?
Well, we'll put it on the next agenda.
Okay, perfect.
So you'll have
He's adamant about it.
I just want to make sure it gets.
Every meeting.
I'm gonna close these meetings quicker than next time. All right, so is that it for this
We'll
evening?
have that on for January.
Okay.
So out of curiosity, what do y'all do about the synthetic sod?
Well, that's up to this.
Yeah, well, so they applied to go to the BZA, which, as you know, is the city council. So they go to the city council. If they get denied, we'll give them a little bit of time to take it out. If they don't take it out, we'll sign it, we'll take it to court, and let the court decide.
Yeah, there is, one thing I've often wondered about too is, and I think somebody else brought it up here, is about how do we react if we make a ruling on any one particular thing and then they just thumb their nose and go out and do it anyway, which has happened repeatedly. I think we need to
Just a couple times.
stiffen that up a little bit. Probably the lawyers are going to have to tell us how much we can get, but I think $1,000 a day.
Well, it's a simple process, so if they violate the ordinance, or if there's a clear violation of a condition of approval, we'll cite them. We'll talk to the prosecutor and see what kind of case we need to build and take it to court, and we just got to let the court decide on that.
So-
The issue we're going to have, obviously, is our ordinance isn't very strong. So
I guess
I'm having a meeting with your prosecutor on Thursday. We're going to talk about this stuff.
So our code enforcement person should be aware of those rulings that are made so that she'll look
Yes.
for that.
That's what we're working on a little plan
Sounds good.
as well. But if you guys see stuff out there that you know, just call me, my number's on the card, or email me, let me know, and we'll jump on it.
All right.
That's all I had. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Well, we have a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
And we have a second. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes?
All no? No? Adjourn passes.
Sharon, can I ask a question?
Was that Daniel? I'm sorry, man, was that Daniel?
Yes, I motion Mary
What
second.
was he asking, what did you ask him last about enforcing? I didn't hear the subject.
The church?
No, was it the last thing, the church?
Just about enforcement in general?
In general, okay.
Did you have a question about that?
No, but that's one question. The second question is, with the lighting downtown, is that starting in 2024? Because you can't really, the decoration lights, can you really make a difference now? It's December the 5th. So
Oh, we only ruled on one
Really,
building.
really one request.
one building, okay, so whatever anyone has up now, they can have up, is that the way it is?
Oh, yeah.
For 60 days before
For
they
60
become.
days
Before they,
Well, that'll be the end of Hanukkah,
yes,
Epiphany, and the whole bit.
I believe that's the end.
That was another question I had for Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox, those houses that you said about moving the size, how much room is between, say this is house A, and this is house B, how much room is from side to side between them?
10 feet.
10 feet.
10 feet?
Yes.
So there'd be room to put what you were saying on the side?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Not that I'm building a house.
Well, you couldn't put a generator there because the generator has to be 3 feet from the house.